You've given the argument that standard 24 months, but there's a 3-month promise that is always given by a government, especially in campaign season. First 100 days, none of which has been delivered. Should we, and even Dr. Ndii did ask one of the people that were questioning online in the TIFF, you actually believe the politicians? You're a politician. Are those just, hizo ni stories za jaba?
Hapana, sio stories za jaba. There is a reality of coming into office. Let me just tell you, for example, so 3 months, it depends on when you start counting. You can't count from 9th of August. You can't count from 15th of August because that's when William Ruto was declared president. You cannot count from the 5th of August, 5th of September when the Supreme Court upheld his promise, his election, sorry. You can only count from 13th of September.
Right.
So today being, 18th of September, it's exactly 5 days since he was sworn into office.
1 year, 5 days.
1 year, 5 days, I beg your pardon.
Yeah.
And so therefore then the question would be, if you look at the plan, right? It is divided into 6 months, into 12 months, 18 months, 36 months, and beyond.
Okay.
And as part of the crafting of the plan. So we really don't have this 100 days kind of promise in the plan, because what is the point of reference? Is it a roadside declaration? It is contestable. But if you go by the plan, which I can defend, we are still in line. So maybe not fully what we would have planned or thought about, but we are trying to execute as much as is possible. Why? Because Mark Masai,
yeah.
We inherited a country that is actually was on the edge of the precipice. It was actually in an economic ICU. It was actually insolvent. It had overborrowed more than its GDP. So now to roll back that, for example, to not to borrow about 500 billion, cutting down expenditure of 300 billion, you are talking about a government that has actually saved a whole 800 billion from its own expenditure. That for me I think is extremely commendable. When you talk about, for example, the issue of employment, and you see 55,000 teachers employed within a year, it has never happened in the history of the Republic of Kenya. When you talk about the issues of fuel, I know that is the elephant in the room. Now, for quite some time, we were spending about 16 billion a month to subsidize fuel. And so we were living a lie. So what did we say? Let us remove these subsidies so that then we can actually recalibrate the real cost of the economy, because then we cannot push on this forever. Why? Because it was taking away the whole of our development expenditure as at then.
Okay.
So you can really see a situation where you are trying to roll back, us getting, jumping off over the cliff and taking us back. That may not necessarily be appreciated, because it may not necessarily deliver into quick wins, because if you are operating from below ground level, by the time you come to ground level, people may not see the impact. Yeah.
Okay. So the 212 figure that we're paying for a litre right now, petrol, is justified given where we were? Are you saying that?
I don't want to say justified. It sounds a little bit cruel, but it is realistic. Maybe that's the word I would use. Part of it also is because of the issue of the dollar. For sure, when William Ruto took over government, we were doing almost $110. It has increased to 150. And there was a projection that by the end of the year, it should be 180. Now, the dollar is losing its value up to 93% since the 1900s, I think, and 80s, I'm not wrong. But then our shilling is losing the value further. And it's not just the Kenyan currency. If you look at South Africa, the rand has lost its value by up to 60%.
Okay.
Yeah? So that has a very serious effect. So what was the reaction? First, you see President Ruto leading a very serious campaign of de-dollarization, so that if you are buying something from Tanzania, you can buy them from in T shillings and K shillings. And then if you buy them from Saudi Arabia, the oil in bulk, then you pay it in Kenya shillings.
Okay.
And I think that's a good move, because even when you go abroad, your card, you are given an opportunity to either buy in dollars or in Kenya shillings.
All right. Mutemi, I don't know how you're hearing this and the explanation given by the government. First of all, they say they inherited an economy that was in the pits. Wengine wanasema store ilikuwa empty, haikuwa na kitu. And then there's the aspect of international headwinds that are contributing to where we are. What are you believing in terms of the explanation?
I think with all due respect, Mr. Mwaura, I won't call him CAS Mwaura because he has not confirmed whether he's employed or not. I think it's disrespectful to Kenyans, to especially Kenyans who, for the last few years, a majority of Kenyans are educated. They can see things. They can see the international trends.
Yeah.
They can tell, for example, if you, Russia is at war with Ukraine, and according to Wadadisi Wamambo, it's actually at war with the West, with NATO. But if you look at the comparison between the values between the ruble and the dollar over the last 2 years, it's negligible. Same with the yuan, despite the talk about BRICS and all that. So we cannot compare ourselves with another mismanaged African country, which is South Africa. It's like unajipima na you're poor in class, but you're comparing yourself with the people who mko number last now. I think Kenyans expect much better, and especially based on what you asked, the initial question you asked, the promise, the 100 days, the promise, especially even around the price of fuel. I'm sure you've seen the clips that are circulating of William Ruto making promises, castigating the government, which he was part of. He talked about the Ministry of Issues and Cartels in the Ministry of Petroleum or Energy. He was very categorical what the issue was at that time. He made a promise. Mr. Mwaura has talked about purchasing fuel from Saudi Arabia using Kenya shillings. First of all, that never happened. Experts have talked about it. But then also taking oil or fuel, petroleum on credit. It has never happened in the world. What has it done? It has, over the last few months, we are in a hole, just paying the interest on that credit that we took. I think it's about 70 billion or something. I'm not sure about the figure, but it's 60 to 70 billion. On top of the cost of fuel, because we took it on credit.
Right.
So I think the best, and I refer to Ndii, because Ndii is the one who's been most critical.
And he's the economic
advisor. He's the economic advisor. He's the one who came up with he talks about the plan. Bottom up is the one who marketed it and that kind of thing. And he's the one who was very critical of the previous regime. But what did he say yesterday in that conversation he was having on Twitter? He said, he quoted himself, saying that Kenya has been living on debt, which, correct, Mwaura said, beyond its capacity. We have overborrowed, and we expect by after living, it's called what? Just being indisciplined around borrowing, that we are going to get out of it, easily. He is categorical. He said it's like, and he used a very bad analogy. I wish he hadn't used that, but he did use it. Yeah. Talked about cancer. It's like a cancer patient who's undergoing chemotherapy. It's painful. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't work. So I think
even doctors lose patience.
And doctors, even Harvard University-trained doctors, lose patience. So he cannot guarantee anything. And I think the fact that he was candid. I think that's the most truth we've had. I think because Ndii is not a politician, Mwaura is a politician. He can't even announce whether he's earning a salary or not, because in politics, facts vary depending on the situation. So I respectfully disagree with my colleague, Mr. Mwaura. I don't think this economy is doing very well. But I understand where he's coming from, because he can't really bash his own government. And you saw what happened after Ndii spoke. Yes. The deputy president issued a statement castigating him and Moses Kuria. So
do you associate an